Sounds good. Okay, then with that being said, I now call this meeting to order today, Tuesday, September 2nd at 7:06 p.m. Um, are there any amendments to today's agenda? Yes, Bethany.
Hi, may we please strike capital contingency allocations as well as contingency allocations?
Thank you. Hiram,
Hi, could we add a USAC officer transfer awareness presentation to the agenda? Do I have to motion for that? I feel like I do.
mm, wait, first does Tommy have the presentation link?
Yes.
I don't think we need a motion. It's not an action item.
Okay.
Nico?
Hey everyone, can I please strike USA/BOD allocations? And oh wait, no, I'm so sorry. That's already struck. Can I please strike brewing card grant and laundry grant allocations?
Yes.
Thank you, sorry.
Divine?
Hi, can you please check art allocations?
Thank you. Joy?
Hi, can we please strike TGIF allocations?
Thank you. Edison?
Hi, could we strike the SFS allocations? Thank you.
Joy, do you still have your hand up? Oh, no. Hannah?
Hi, can we please strike SWC programming fund allocations? Thanks.
Of course. And Sherry?
Hi, can we please strike bag allocations?
Got it. And Chris?
Hello, may we please strike ASRF and TGMF?
Perfect, thank you. Tommy?
Okay, I have a couple that we need to motion. So I motion to add an appointment for Avantika Mohan to TGIF to the agenda.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining. With a vote to 13 to 0, that appointment is made to our agenda. Are there any other motions, Tommy?
And then I have another one. I would like to motion an appointment for Mariah Moreno to the Community Activities Committee to the agenda.
Can we get a second, please?
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining. Hiram, is that a yes or a no?
That's a yes.
That's a yes. With a vote to 14 to 0, that is approved and it is on our agenda. And then another one.
And then last one, I motion to approve an add an appointment for Sanjana Food here to TGIF.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote to 14 to 0, that is approved. Any other amendments, Tommy?
No, that should be it for today.
Sounds good. Can someone please motion to approve our today's agenda?
Motion to approve the September 2nd, 2025 USAC agenda.
I second.
Here are motions, Divine seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a 14 to 0, that motion passes and our agenda for September 2nd is approved. We will now be moving on to our public comment section. Are there any students here today for public comments? Tommy, can you please pull up the timer for our public commenters?
Yep, 1 second.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Before while you do that, I completely missed the minutes. Are there any objections to the USAC meeting minutes from August 19th? If so, please raise your hands. Seeing as there are none, we will continue again to our public comment. Thank you so much, Laurie. Whenever you can, Tommy, feel free to do so. Okay. Is Kishan, Tommy, is Kishan our first public commenter?
Yep.
Kishan, whenever you're ready, you may begin your 2-minute public comment.
Hi everyone, my name is Kashan and I'm an incoming transfer student at UCLA majoring in public affairs. And you may also know me from my involvement in 3 USAC offices, namely EVP, GR3, and 3 TSR for this upcoming year. And I'm here to speak today in strong support for Sanjana Sudhir for the Green Initiative Fund Committee. And although I've only had the opportunity to work with Sanjana for about a year in statewide organizations, I truly cannot think of a better person to recommend. And as an incoming transfer, she brings a fresh and necessary perspective to the table. And her experience within multiple different areas, background in psychology, with a public sector focus, and most importantly, her genuine care, passion, and dedication make her an ideal candidate, and I'm more than confident that she'll give her full commitment to serving the Green Initiative Fund Committee. Thank you all, and I yield my time.
Thank you. Are there any other students here to give public comments? Eli, whenever you're ready, you may begin your 2-minute public comment.
Thanks, Diego. Can everyone hear me? I'll take that as a yes. Okay. So hi everyone, my name is Eli Sepulveda, and I'm the Chief Justice for this upcoming academic school year. And my public comment is a continuation of my previous two. In case you missed that, it was about the judicial board's role as a form of transparency for the student body to address USAC decisions and have their voices heard. And I'm talking to you today because it has been over 6 weeks since we initially raised the issue of fiscal transparency with USAC, and we have not received communication about the change in criteria for assessing our performance. As context, last year our budget was cut, and reasonably so because we had not been active for previous years. However, we were told that if we increased our activity, if we became more involved and more available as a resource, that our funding could be adjusted with discussion with USAC. And this is an important issue for us because as J Board being a USAC body, we cannot apply for funding from any of your funds as other organizations can. So we really do depend on USAC's funding allocation for this. And despite having increased our activity last year, we heard 4 cases, we were involved in improving the social media guidelines. Our budget was cut for this year, including our stipends, and we have no operational budget as of now. So I'm talking to this board for the goal of asking you to please, if you can, communicate what your criteria is for assessing our activity. That has not been communicated to us yet, and neither has any further discussion on our funding. And this is really important as the school year is about to start up, and we need to be available for students as they need us. Thank you.
Thank you, Eli. Seeing as this isn't a back and forth period between council members, you'll be reached out to in regards to this public comment. Are there any other students here for public comment? If so, please raise your hand, as Tommy will give you permission to speak. If not, we'll close. I'll close public comment today at 7:16 p.m. Lorelai, can you explain about the meeting minutes? Do you want us to prove them?
Yeah, so Lori had just, asked if we had minutes that could be possibly approved in the chat, and her catching that, I just responded with Kendall, our minutes taker, had shared I think it was last Friday, the 8:19 minutes, if council would like to approve those, if not, at a later date.
We can approve of those at a later date if that's okay. I don't know if anyone has any opposition. Um, if not, we can go ahead and move forward with our special presentation. Hiram and
Yes.
Tommy, whenever you're ready.
Um, could
Tommy,
we,
process.
sorry, could we make some people from my office speakers? Is that fine just to promote them and give them speaking privileges? Paige, Netta, and Aniruda, they're in the attendees. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And Tommy is sharing the screen, right?
Whatever works with you.
Tommy, do you mind sharing your screen? Sorry. All right, so I'll get us started. I don't want to take up too much of everyone's time, but I wanted to give a USAC officer transfer awareness presentation. I think Jonathan might have seen this presentation before, just because this used to be an initiative that was done. I think it started in 2020, but we're bringing it back in full force. And yeah, we can go on to the next slide. So, you know me, but I invited a few members from my team to join me, so I'll let them introduce themselves. Paige, do you want to go first?
Yeah, hi, I'm Paige. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm Paige. I'm the external chief of staff in the transfer student representative office. I'm studying poli-sci in communications and excited to be here.
Netta, Ani.
Hi, my name is Netta. I am an incoming transfer student to UCLA. I'm following the pre-med path as a biology major and am currently a CCC Connections staffer.
I'm Ani. I'm also an incoming community college transfer. I'm majoring in poli-sci and on the pre-law track. And I am also a staffer at the Community College Connections, the PSR office.
Great. Moving on to our next slide. Paige, take it away.
I'm just going to quickly go over some of the goals of this presentation. First one is to become aware of the identities of the transfer community at UCLA, the UC, and beyond. To better understand the systemic barriers to access that exist for transfer students. And lastly, to develop and incorporate action items that support transfer students.
We can move on. There we go.
And then I will quickly go over some statistics just to give you a quick overview of the transfer experience here at UCLA. There's 8,000 plus transfer students here at UCLA, which makes up about 25% of the undergraduate population. 92% of those transfers come from California Community College. 9% of transfer students are international students. 35% of transfers are from underrepresented backgrounds. And 41% of transfers are first generation college students.
Now, despite the statistics mentioned on the previous slide, transfer students come from all backgrounds, including but not limited to students from community colleges, first-gen students, non-traditional and traditionally aged students, parenting students, international students, financially independent students, veterans, commuters, athletes, to name a few.
I want to continue to highlight that UCLA students come from a wide range of identities and lived experiences. Some of the other identities we see represented here include undocumented and AB 540 students, students who are transferring from one four-year university to another, students who are system impacted, students who are formerly incarcerated, former foster youth, and students in recovery, which can include recovery from substance abuse, mental health challenges, or just other life circumstances. And of course, out of state students and adult learners or returning students. These, for me, the identity that shapes my experience most strongly is being a transfer student from a community college.
Great. I'm going to move on to a brief explanation of what the transfer triad is. These are the three pillars of transfer student leadership at UCLA. You guys are obviously familiar with the USAC Transfer Student Representative Office within USAC under ASUCLA. I'm obviously the point of contact for that. But there's also the Transfer Leadership Coalition and the Transfer Student Center. I really want to highlight the Transfer Leadership Coalition for just 1 second. They went dormant after COVID. And then last year, Mona Tabasli kind of brought it back in full force. One of the co-chairs is Zara Kareem this year, but we will be having co-chair elections for the other position in the fall. So transfer leaders in USAC offices, so any of your directors and staff members are invited to join and kind of give their perspective as a transfer student to the Transfer Leadership Coalition, and they're invited to run for TLC co-chair. The Transfer Leadership Coalition is also trying to become a sole registered org this year, which is really exciting. But there's also the Transfer Student Center, which is a department under Student Affairs. I'm pretty sure everyone here knows Sarah Mo, like one of the greatest people ever. But this just kind of makes up the pillars of transfer student advocacy at UCLA, especially with the Transfer Leadership Coalition. It was made around the same time as the transfer student representative position, I believe. And Triple CP also played a huge part in creating and supporting the Transfer Leadership Coalition. And I'm very excited to hopefully see a lot of our USAC transfer leaders present in those meetings this year. Moving on to the next slide. I think it's crucial to mention that before 1999, there were no official outreach programs for transfers besides TSP. And like I mentioned, like it was, trailblazers and students and also organizations like Triple CP that played a huge part in creating and supporting the transfer triad and like making it come into fruition. So since 2001, the transfer student program began under the BRC in 2009. The Transfer Leadership Coalition was created in 2014, and it advocated for the TSR position, which is why I have my job today. And then the Office of the TSR was established in 2014. And then the Transfer Student Center became a thing and moved to Kirkhoff in 2017. And in 2019, the Transfer Leadership Coalition advocated for the transfer appointed officer position within the UCSA. And the Center for Community College Partnerships is a center for outreaching to underrepresented and low-income community college students to empower students and provide guidance on transferring to a four-year university. They also use critical race theory to examine and recognize the institutional barriers that are placed on communities of color as well as first-generation students. And the Transfer Student Center is a place that supports and connects students to opportunities and resources through intentional programming efforts and also just collaborative work with different student organizations. They work a lot with us. The Transfer Student Representative Office, as well as the Transfer Student Center, is hosting our Transfer Transitions event, which is a pre-week zero event to kind of help new transfer students get adjusted to life at UCLA and academics. There's also Chi Alpha Psi, which is our transfer student fraternity. And then there's STOMP, which is Student Opportunity and Mentorship Program, which is a huge, huge thing that supports prospective transfer students, especially from marginalized backgrounds. We have our Filipino Transfer Student Partnership. We have so many more organizations that genuinely support our transfer students that are crucial for you guys as student leaders to be well aware of. We can move on to the next slide.
While I am not a transfer myself and I can't speak to the personal experience of being a transfer, I do want to help highlight some of the resources and lack of resources offered UC-wide to transfer students. One important thing to keep in mind is that of the 9 UCs, only 6 offer university-wide transfer resources, those being UCSB, Berkeley, UCLA, UCSD, UC Davis, UCI. Other campuses have other resources that aren't a campus-wide transfer center. For example, UCR has the Burns College of Engineering Transfer Student Center, but that's just an engineering-specific student center. UCSD recently established a transfer hub in 2020, which is great improvement. But it's really important to highlight how cross UC not necessarily collaboration and just inspiration can really help our transfer students and make sure that we are providing the best of the best to our transfer students. Next slide. And similarly, we want to talk about the academic challenges and obstacles that transfer students face in their unique experience. The 2-year time constraint is particularly important because it makes it more difficult when they're overcoming familial, financial, social, and cultural barriers to advocacy opportunities because of minimal institutional knowledge, unclear transfer pathways and modes of communication post-transfer, and transitional challenges post-graduation for transfer students. It's important to highlight how being a transfer student can give you different results in terms of graduation too, so that we know how best to support our transfer students. A 2-year transfer graduation rate is about 76.9%, whereas a 4-year freshman graduation rate is over 10% higher at 87.4%, although these statistics are a few years out of date. And restrictions on changing majors and adding majors makes it difficult for transfer students to complete all the academics that they would like, because certain majors such as public affairs don't allow transfer students to add their major because of the 2-year restriction. They don't believe that transfer students will be able to fulfill the requirements within those 2 years, and it seriously restricts the opportunities for students. It also makes it difficult for enrollment, whereas transfer students don't get the same status as their peers in order to enroll in the classes that they would like. Adjusting to the quarter system can also be an issue, given that most community colleges in California operate on the semester system. It's a change in workload. It can make it more difficult to connect with professors, and we have much larger classes than a community college. So it's important to understand those obstacles that transfer students face and work to make them less difficult. It's important that we make sure that transfer students are able to find and use campus resources, because these resources weren't created with transfers in mind. We have to make sure that they are accessible. And transfer students often have to balance responsibilities like families, jobs, commutes, and schools because they are more non-traditional. And lastly, there's financial issues that transfer students can face as well.
Transfer shock refers to the temporary dip in GPA that often happens when students move from one institution of higher education to another. And because of this adjustment, transfer students may take longer to graduate than those who began their undergraduate career at a 4-year university, just as we saw in the previous slide. One UCLA transfer student described it this way. Transfer shock may happen for a number of reasons because there are many differences between the community college and the university. Just as with culture shock, being in an unfamiliar environment and learning to navigate the skills, tools, and resources available, people tend not to perform at their highest level. During my transfer Bruin Day and orientation, I kind of saw that myself because I was shocked at the sheer size of the community and how many people there just were compared to my community college. So just wanted to highlight that.
Along with academic challenges, there are also concerning social challenges that transfer students face entering UCLA. One of the most prominent of these challenges is because of the time constraints that students face. Having only 2 years at UCLA, connections are not as easily made. Furthermore, a very prevalent issue for transfer students, not only at UCLA, but all four-year universities accepting transfers, students often experience a heavy bout of stigma surrounding this transfer identity. These stigmas can lead to mental health issues in transfer students, as well as stereotype threat and self-fulfilling prophecies. The USAC office should aim to limit this issue as best as they can. Now, as a transfer student myself, hoping to enter med school in the near future, I have definitely felt the stress placed upon transfers, not only to excel academically in the 2 year constraint of transfers, but also to connect with the UCLA community.
All right. And as we're about halfway through this presentation, we want to ask you to reflect on the information you've gained so far and think, how has my knowledge of transfers changed? Some questions to ask yourself, which are on the screen, so I'll just read them out. Which statistics or facts stood out to me the most? What was I surprised about? What do I feel equipped to talk about with my friends, peers, and perhaps your own office? Anything else you think is relevant? We are going to ask you to, or ask a few of you to respond that are on council. I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. Whenever you feel you have a solid response, feel free to share, just so that we can see the effects of this presentation.
Now, I don't want to call on you guys, but I'm not like I I don't mind. Joy.
Hello, thank you for your presentation. I was surprised to know that about 10% or the graduation rate for transfers is about 10% lower than for traditional students. That's an astounding difference. And it really shows the inequities and the barriers that transfer students face in accessing resources compared to traditional four-year students on campus.
Absolutely. Thank you for responding. One more person would be great.
Brett and Sherry can go. Brett, Sherry, and Jaya can go. I love all the hands.
I was gonna say, I can't see you guys.
Okay, let's do Brett, Sherry, then Jaya.
Hello, thank you so much for this presentation. As a transfer myself, can totally relate. Something that I'm learning as a transfer from a community college is that people who are international students or transfers from other 4 years have much different experiences than transfers from community colleges. So I'm learning a lot more about those people's experience and how their transfer experience is different from mine.
Sherry or Jaya?
Hi, wait, yeah, thank you so much for this presentation. I think something that I really appreciate that you guys pointed out was like all of the kind of system-wide coalitions and organizations that are working to uplift transfer students. And I think specifically like for our council and also for like my office, it's something that is super interesting to learn about and something that like organizations that we're actively looking to work with. So yeah, thank you so much for this presentation.
Jaya?
Yes. Hello. Oh wait, am I doubled? Um, sorry, being shared together, but thank you so much for sharing this. I'm excited. I filled out the form so you guys can present this to my office as well. I think some of the interesting things that I found was I really enjoyed learning about like the history and the past advocacy work that was done to like establish the transferees like student center and things like that. And it was also learning how new it was. Also like especially like also came around the same time, almost around the same time the BBRC did. So I found that interesting. I think the other interesting I learned about was like how nearly half of transfer students are first generation. And I think, and also like I really liked how you guys delved deep into like intersectionality of transfer students and how a lot of them come from like BIPOC like system impacted and things like that. And I think that aligns a lot in my platforms and things like that. And that's why I really worked this year to really make a transfer friendly office in terms of hiring and having now like multiple directors that are transfers, and also staffers that are transfers as well, and really like also providing that support and things like that, and doing more collaboration opportunities with Hiram's office, and we'll be doing that this quarter and definitely in winter and spring quarter. So again, I really appreciate you guys doing this, and it's definitely reflecting a lot on my end and how I can be a more transfer friendly office and also have include more transfer inclusive language in my day-to-day dialogue.
Thank you, everyone who commented. We really appreciate it. And I think we're ready to go to the next slide.
So moving on, now that we've had the opportunity to discuss transfer issues, we'll be focusing on ways to support transfer students at UCLA and beyond. So if we can go to the next slide. Honestly, the very best thing you can do is to just be understanding of our experiences as students, and that includes using transfer inclusive language. I noticed that a lot of people oftentimes, when they refer to incoming students, they initially state freshmen or first years, and they don't include transfers in this narrative. So recognizing that first year transfers and third year students are a part of that incoming class, and using transfer inclusive language when talking about new students is always it's an easy fix that I feel like every single person can do. So just understanding that not all students are direct entry. Also recognizing the validity of our past experiences, skills, attributes, and knowledge. What I've noticed, especially while being on USAC, is that a lot of people have an internal bias when it comes to transfer students. Although we've had a range of years in previous college experience, and we bring that to the table, I feel like oftentimes it's not seen as equal to our peers that are traditional four-year students. So just understanding that we have come from a place where we have put in the work, we have put in the effort, we have worked hard to get to where we are today. And also just being mindful that a lot of our transfers have many other responsibilities, including careers, jobs, families, and we have a huge commuter population at UCLA. So just being mindful of all different types of transfers and their intersectional identities at UCLA is it's always a helpful thing you can do as a transfer ally.
Fostering a transfer receptive culture means creating an environment where transfer students feel valued, included, and supported, not just in theory, but in practice as well. One of the most important things you can do is actively work to be an ally. This includes recognizing transfer students as intellectual equals and assisting in our advocacy for institutional change. Whenever you're making organizational decisions, keep one question in mind. Am I including the transfer perspective? This simple question ensures that transfer students are considered and included at every level. And you can always obviously reach out to the transfer triad anytime that was mentioned by Hiram earlier in this presentation. We are eager to engage with the community, support your efforts, and collaborate on initiatives that make UCLA more transfer friendly. And by keeping these principles in mind, each of us can help create a culture where transfer students thrive, feel recognized, and are fully included in the life of the university.
Now, there are two main ways that the USAC office can help UCLA transfers, including both active and passive approaches. Active approaches include changing bylaws, adding transfer roles, or including transfers in all spaces, including those not specifically designated for transfer students. Passive approaches include asking yourself the transfer perspective question when making decisions to ensure that transfer students are included in all aspects of UCLA life.
Now, I know a lot of you might be wondering, what was this presentation for? I'm sorry for not adding it to the agenda earlier, but this was all to just give you a little glimpse into our new transfer, well, not new, but um, up again, transfer awareness trainings that were established originally by 2020-2021 USAC TSR Zuleika Bravo. So previous organizations that have used our training program include all 15 USAC offices, the Elections Board, ASUCLA Board of Directors, the EDI Student Advisory Board, our mother organizations, different sororities and fraternities, UCLA Housing Administration, UCLA Academic Senate, the Bruin Ambassador Program with the Undergraduate Admissions Office, and so much more. This was a really active program, and we are trying to bring it back in full force. So if you do decide to sign up for a training like this, I'm going to send the form in the chat, for whatever organization you're a part of, whether it is your USAC office or anything else. We'll have one of our staff members, our directors, go and give a presentation to your team at an hour that makes sense for your office when your general meetings are being held. Our training consists of UCLA, UC, and California transfer-related information. So topics include transfer history and statistics at UCLA, the effects of California legislator on transfer students, and methods of supporting transfer students in your organization. It lasts up to 30 minutes usually. We took a little longer today, sorry. But we kind of tweak each presentation to fit your organization's needs. So please specify if you want to see anything in particular and sign up with the link I sent in the chat if you're interested. Any questions? Jaya?
Yeah, also again, thank you so much for presenting this. Highly encourage everyone to, fill out the form and apply, especially if your office is heavily lacking transfers and things like that. I was happy I was able to slightly increase it a little bit of this past year, but I think my question, I guess it's more of a comment, but like something you touch up upon was a lot about addressing the intersectionality of transfer students, specifically highlighting like that their system impacted, like students with dependents, BIPOC students and things like that. And I'm kind of curious, like how do you see USAC offices who maybe, especially council members, maybe you aren't transfers, but also part of like those demographics, BIPOC, system impacted ETC, like how do you see us being able to collaborate in more joint advocacies um, efforts to support the diverse like needs of our diverse transfers at UCLA?
That's a great question. Honestly, what my office has been doing is getting in touch with our different centers at UCLA and just getting connected, especially with our non-traditional student networks, as well as our like just different identity and cultural based organizations on campus. There are also identity specific organizations that are that are for transfer students specifically that you can get in touch with. The transfer triad, so myself, Zara, and Sarah, we have all the resources to connect you guys. If you guys want to get connected with specific groups and organizations, just shoot me a message or shoot any of them an email, and we'll be more than happy to assist. But honestly, just speaking to students and understanding their experiences, and recognizing that, especially if you're coming from a traditional four-year student perspective, just recognizing that despite our experiences being so different, we all ended up at the same place and we're all deserving of being here, and UCLA has a spot for all of us. I think that mindset is how we should be operating, but thank you for your question. Anything else? All right, if there are no further questions, I just want to thank my team, so Ani, Netta, and Paige, for joining us today. This is so exciting. I love getting to introduce my team, especially to council. So thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. And again, thank you, Hiram, and your directors and staffers for giving our council this presentation. And I'll make sure to keep this link on hold when I begin my fall general meetings with my staff, as well as just promoting it in general with other folks. But thank you again so much. We'll now be moving on to our appointments. our first appointment of the day is for the Green Initiative Fund. Whenever you're ready, I believe Aventica, is that how you pronounce it? Well, Tommy, you can give them speaking permission, and whenever the timer is up on the screen, I'll let you know when you can start. Oh, there you go.
Cool. Hi, nice to meet
Sorry.
y'all.
Wait, sorry. Yeah, whenever you're ready, you can start your 1 minute opening statement, and then you'll be given um, so sorry about that. You can start your 1 minute opening statement, and then afterwards, you'll have a 15-minute question and answer period, and then you have a 1 minute closing period, and then afterwards, the appointments review committee will give their recommendations, and then afterwards, council will deliberate, which will be followed by a vote. So now, whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1 minute opening statement.
Awesome, great. I was just saying hi. Can y'all hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Avantika. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a rising senior and MIMG major. I'm applying to be a committee member on TGIF. I have been a committee member for the past 2 years, and this is hopefully a continuation of that. I grew up in India, and my upbringing provided an early exposure into the importance of thinking about sustainability, having an environmental conscious focus while planning events, and not taking resources for granted. And that kind of led me to applying and doing projects working on sustainability in high school, which is what led me to apply to TGIF in my sophomore year. I've worked here with some amazing people, my past chair, Nilaya, Anya, Avery, and we've really thought and cultivated a culture where we think about sustainability and education and advocacy all in one. And I would really like to continue that with my last year here.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to our 15-minute question and answer period from council. Joy.
Hi, Avantika. Thank you for giving your opening statement, and I'm excited to see you reapply. I did have a question for you. Where do environmental racism and justice fit into sustainability and TGIF? How do you plan to allocate funding that acknowledges the intersectionalities between sustainability and Black, Indigenous, and people of color?
Great question, Joy. Thank you so much. So environmental racism and disparities that are faced by marginalized communities disproportionately is a very important and I think interesting aspect to some of the work that some organizations on campus do, and it's something that we want to support with our fund. So while not all the organizations that we work with specifically, address these issues in a direct way, we try and encourage most organizations to have an educational component, which is kind of where we ask them to think about their lens, the different lenses of intersectionality and sustainability and racism, for example. And then through that, we try and encourage them to reflect and then have that educational component in whatever project or event that they are applying for, and incorporate it so that it really, it can reach a larger audience and resonate with some of the attendees. So let's say, for example, that ISU today was to apply for funding for an event. Then we would encourage them to have some sort of educational board that, like talks about environmental concerns in India, or something along those lines, or something that affects, let's say, for example, people of color, in the Indian subcontinent. So it's more of like encouraging organizations to try and do some of the work of spreading information and education while also educating us, because we don't know everything. We definitely don't have all the diversity that is part of UCLA's undergraduate population, and it's definitely something we can learn from as well. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Hiram.
Hi, Avantika. Thank you so much for joining us today. I was wondering, as someone with 2 years of experience in TGIF, why are you applying for reappointment, and what changes do you wish to implement in TGIF this coming year?
Yeah, of course. I loved the work that I did with TGIF these past 2 years. I became really passionate about it. I fell in love with working with the community that we build every year through TGIF. And it really makes me want to come back and do it some justice my last year before I leave UCLA. I think it's both part of trying to build some a kind of like culture at TGIF where we're thinking about different issues. We're thinking about how we can be more than just a funding body for students, and how we can like really help them and empower them to think about sustainability and the environment. And I think that's what keeps drawing me back to TGIF. We've worked on some very interesting projects. It's something I talked about in the ARC interview as well, so it might be repetitive for you, but for everyone else here, we worked on a sustainability guide my first year that we actually started to circulate last year amongst different organizations that gives general suggestions and guidelines to different types of organizations from engineering to arts to cultural, and really outlines what orgs can do and think about when they're planning their events to focus on sustainability and think of it as not an afterthought but something that is integral to their planning process. And this year, it's kind of transitioned into trying to work on the accessibility of sustainability and what that might mean. And so we're trying to work on a sustainability shed this year, that lets different organizations, borrow material for free for their events. So it really reduces consumerism and it reduces excessive buying of materials, and lets you either locally source or it lets you take materials from UCLA that you can return and then somebody else can use it. And so it introduces a culture of reusability and recycling. So that's something that I'm hoping to see through this year, amongst some of other things, including just trying to focus on education a little bit more. I think that education is the easiest and most accessible way that orgs can reach an audience and really start having people think about sustainability and think about it in a very crucial, real way.
Thank you so much. Are there any other council members wanting to ask any questions for our candidate today? Final call for questions. If not, then thank you so much. We'll move on to your 1-minute closing statement whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I hope I've convinced you that I, Avantika Mohan, should be voted into the TGIF committee. Like I said with my last year at UCLA, I'd like to be part of something that builds something sustainable, happy, and most importantly, uplifting in its nature. I think with the current climate in the US, where it feels like the environment is being targeted in a very unfair way, it's important to keep fighting for a cause like this at a very grassroots level, which I can do through TGIF at UCLA.
Thank you so much. Can we please get appointments review committee recommendations?
Yes. For the majority of her undergraduate career, Avantika has come back to ARC to prove to us why she belongs on TGIF, and each time she has brought a fresh perspective as to why she deserves reappointment. Avantika is a candidate that is almost a no-brainer for this committee. Despite having spent years in this position, she has ideas she wants to execute for her last year on campus. She stands with our marginalized communities and understands the importance of diversity during a time where it's being threatened. Avantika knows TGIF inside and out. With a 3-0 vote, ARC enthusiastically recommends Avantika for the reappointment.
Thank you so much. Can we now move on to council deliberations? If council members have any comments, please raise your hands. Yes, Joy.
Hi, Avantika. Thank you so much for coming to council today and for reapplying. I was very excited to see you today. And I believe with 2 years of experience in TGIF, you've done incredible work for the committee. I appreciate your concern about environmental racism and justice and how we can make sustainability more accessible for student groups. And you've really demonstrated your passion and competency for the role. And I'm excited for you to continue in the committee if reappointed and see your support for groups for environmental justice. So thank you again for coming.
Thank you, Joy.
Yes, Jaya.
Hi, I really enjoyed Avantika's ARC interview. It was very thorough, and also you could tell she was very clearly passionate about her role at TGIF. I had the pleasure of working with her last year when I was Tommy's community relations director, and she attended as like a panelist for our financial literacy night, talking to student organizations about TGIF, and really made the presentation really lively. And I'm really excited to continue that initiative with her in my role as the new Gen Rep 2. If Avantika is hopefully imported, I urge everyone to vote yes.
Thank you, Jaya.
Thank you. Are there any other deliberations from council members? Seeing as there are none, we can move on to a vote. Can someone please motion for a vote? Yes, Hiram.
Motion to appoint Avantika to TGIF for a one-year term from 2025 to 2026.
I second.
Thank you. Hiram motions, Jaya seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote to 13 to 0, that motion passes. And sorry, I'm like messing with it. And she is approved to serve on the Green Initiative Fund for the academic year 2025 to 2026. Sorry, I didn't say her name. Avantika Mohan for the academic year of 2025 to 2026. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Very grateful.
Of course. Thank you so much. We will now be moving on to our next appointments for the Community Activities Committee. Just for pronunciation, is it pronounced Mariah?
Yeah, it's pronounced Mariah.
Great. Whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Great, thank you. My name is Mariah Moreno. I'm a rising senior. This is going to be my second year at UCLA as a transfer student from a California community college. I'm currently studying political science and hoping to get that public affairs minor, and I'm applying for the Community Activities Committee. I chose this committee to apply for specifically because of my past experience as a student government officer, where I reviewed funding appropriations weekly from student clubs. And I specifically chose the Community Activities Committee because of its community service focus. This summer and then this past spring, I served in public service internships where I learned the importance of becoming directly involved with the community and how much our impact as student leaders has on community members. So I just want to sort of incorporate that with my involvement in UCLA. Thank you.
Of course, thank you so much. We'll now be moving on to your 15-minute question and answer period. Council, if you have any questions, please raise your hands. I can go first, if nobody has any immediate questions. You touched upon it a little bit in your community college experience, but if you could also expand on your role as a voting member on a funding body, what experience did you gain from it, and what did you learn? And what would you take from that into your role in CAC?
Yeah, of course. So in my previous position, I was the Senate chair, so I chaired the weekly meetings, and there are a bunch of different agenda meetings on it, or agenda items. However, funding and appropriations were always the most consistent because we are the largest source of student funding on our campus. So within that role, we heard budget proposal meetings from the student leaders, and then we had to objectively decide based on a couple core priorities and principles. So we would consider what the event was composed of, how much money they were asking from each budget line, and what was the student purpose. And then additionally, we would consider different priorities from our student government's priority list. So that would be like co-curricular engagement, professional development, transfer and retention. So those specific core priorities spoke to me, especially in my position, that I would want to bring into the Community Activities Committee, because it gave a more like personable approach to the funding appropriations. Of course, we want to be objective because this is money that we're talking about, and we want to make sure that we are funding as effectively as possible. But I believe adding those core priorities enabled the student leaders that were advocating for their club to really convey like their purpose in like uplifting the communities, whether it was like formerly incarcerated, whether it was engineering students, whatever that may be. So I would love to collaborate with my committee members and think of some core priorities that we would want to, for example, like promote DEI or promote transparency within our committee.
Thank you so much. Yes, Hiram.
Hi, Mariah. Thank you so much for joining us today. I just wanted to know what drew you to the Community Activities Committee over other USAC committees, especially as a transfer student.
Yeah, of course. I briefly touched on it in my interview, in the interview. So sorry if it's repetitive, but what drew me to the Community Activities Committee specifically, as I know there's different funding bodies that my prior experience could have been applied to, is my personal passion for community service. I believe that within this committee specifically, the fact that these student organizations are taking their knowledge, their time, and commitment to do outreach into the community, to like our real world. Sometimes I feel like within such a great school, but within UCLA or within any type of higher education institution, our students can sometimes get tunnel vision into like their end goal. So the fact that these student organizations and this committee is putting in time and effort to invest time and invest resources into the outer world community is why I particularly chose this committee. And I believe that empowering these student leaders to outreach into the community like that is one of like the core values that UCLA as an institution upholds. So I think this would be like a great avenue to encourage that.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions from council members for Mariah today? Seeing as there are none, thank you so much, Mariah. We will now be moving on to your 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you. So for my closing statement, I just like to, I guess, reiterate my passion for this committee specifically. I know I don't have any like exact UCLA experience as a transfer student, but I do hope to take my community college experience and apply it and provide like a different lens on this committee. I hope to provide like outreach resources even within the committee. So ensuring that this process of the funding appropriation is as simplified and digestible for these student organizations, because I kind of want to demystify the whole funding appropriations aspect, as I know it might be very intimidating and it might be even discouraging for some organizations that might be starting out. So within my position, hopefully on this committee, I'd want to invest time into uplifting these student leaders specifically and ensuring that this funding process is as seamless as possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now be moving on to ARC recommendations.
Yes. I have the recommendations. 1 second. Um, all right. All right. ARC recommends for Mariah to the Community Activities Committee with a unanimous vote of 3 to 0 to 0. She brings a strong experience in student government and budget management with a clear focus on transparency, accessibility, and supporting marginalized and transfer students. Mariah's thoughtful approach to funding decisions and commitment to creating lasting resources make her well suited for the role.
Thank you, Tommy. We'll now be moving on to council deliberations. Final call for deliberations from council members. Yes, Hiram.
I just want to say I haven't worked with Mariah professionally, but I really did enjoy her ARC interview. I honestly I appreciate whenever people come in and share just how important serving on this kind of committee would be for them. And I feel like I definitely got that from Mariah's interview. And I'm really excited to potentially see her on this committee. And I urge you all to vote yes.
Thank you so much. Seeing as we finish that, can someone please motion for a vote for Mariah's appointment? Yes, Hiram.
Motion to appoint Mariah to the Community Activities Committee for a one-year term for the academic year 2025-2026.
Second.
Hiram motions, Joy seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote to 13 to 0, that motion is passed, and Mariah Moreno is appointed to the Community Activities Committee for the 2025-2026 academic year. Congratulations, Mariah.
Thank you so much. I'm excited.
Of course. Have a great night. We'll now be moving on to Sanjana Sutir for the Green Initiative Fund. Whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Hi everyone. My name is Sanjana Sudhir. My pronouns are she, her, and I am an incoming transfer student. I am majoring in psychology and minoring in public affairs. Today, I am interviewing to serve on the Green Initiative Fund Committee. I feel that I would be a good fit for this position because I believe that sustainability is most impactful when it's student-led and built through collaborations across our campus. Being involved in student government at community college, I reviewed grant proposals, managed budgets, and made decisions that were sustainable for all of our students. I've also helped advance the Green Policy Initiative, which is a nonprofit that advocated for policy changes that support environmental responsibility across California. These experiences taught me how to bring a big idea into realistic steps, and I'm excited to bring that to the Green Initiative Fund and to help fund projects that improve UCLA's environmental footprint. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll now be moving on to your 15-minute question and answer period from council. Yes, Joy?
Hi, Sanjana. Thank you so much for applying to TGIF and for coming to council today. My question for you is, where do environmental racism and justice fit into sustainability and TGIF? How do you plan to allocate funding that acknowledges the intersectionalities between sustainability and Black, Indigenous, and people of color?
Thank you so much for your question, Joy. For me, sustainability and environmental justice go hand in hand. I feel that you can't really talk about creating a greener, healthier future without also addressing the ways that environmental harms have historically been distributed unequally. Communities of color, especially Black and Indigenous communities, are often the first and most deeply impacted by environmental degradation, from air pollution to a lack of access to clean water. I feel that the Green Initiative Fund has a unique opportunity to address these inequities here on campus by making sure that we're funding projects that are not only to reduce UCLA's footprint, but also center the voices and needs of these marginalized students. That could look like prioritizing projects that address environmental issues in student housing or food access, or projects that partner with cultural organizations to build awareness and engagement. In terms of funding allocation, I would approach it with intentionality. When evaluating proposals, I'd ask, who is this project serving, and are marginalized students actively part of its design and leadership? I'd also want to create more focused outreach so that BIPOC student groups know that the Green Initiative Fund is available to them and that their ideas are welcome. My experience working on the Green Policy Initiative showed me how policy and funding can equally uplift equity when those questions are built into the process from the start. In the Green Initiative Fund, that means not treating equity as like a separate box to check off, but as a core value alongside environmental impact and feasibility. Thank you.
Hero.
This kind of relates back to what you answered with Joy's question. Also, hi. So glad you're here. But my question for you is, how will you ensure that marginalized communities at UCLA are being supported in projects that don't explicitly relate back to sustainability?
Thank you so much for your question, Hiram, and hi. So I feel that marginalized students are such a big population on our campus. And as a transfer student myself, I know what it's like to arrive at such a large campus like UCLA and sometimes feel that opportunities weren't designed with you in mind. And I feel that it can be intimidating to navigate spaces that don't actively reach out to you. That's why one of my biggest priorities would be to make sure that the Green Initiative Fund is visible and accessible to students who might not normally see themselves as part of sustainability work. One way that I would do that by encouraging outreach that goes beyond the usual circles. For example, instead of just advertising the Green Initiative Fund funding opportunities through environmental clubs, we could also work with different cultural organizations, transfer student groups, like Hiram mentioned, the Triad, and resource centers to spread the word. That way, students who might not initially think of themselves as like environmental leaders or essentially environmentally conscious still realize that they have valuable ideas and perspectives to contribute. Another way is by evaluating proposals with equity in mind. If two projects have similar environmental benefits, but one reaches a broader or more marginalized audience, I'd be more inclined to prioritize that project. That ensures that the Green Initiative Fund's impact is felt across different student communities on our campus and not just those who are like active and engaged. For me, sustainability is the strongest when it's inclusive, like I mentioned, and that means intentionally supporting non-traditional, marginalized, and transfer students.
Thank you. Any other questions from council members? Final call. Seeing as they're done, we'll be moving on. Thank you so much. We'll now move on to your 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone for taking the time to consider my application today and for all the work that you do to support student leadership at UCLA. Through this interview, I've shared my experience in leadership roles and community engagement, but overall, I truly have a passion for transforming a big idea like sustainability into something more tangible and engaging for all of our students. Through my past experiences in the Green Policy Initiative and student government, I've learned how powerful student-led action is in terms of policy change. I want to bring that spirit to the Green Initiative Fund to make sure that every project that we are funding is not just environmentally sound, but also equitable and student-driven. If selected, I'll approach every decision with care, diligence, and a commitment to making a lasting impact. I'm so thankful for this opportunity and excited to possibly help contribute to UCLA's sustainable legacy. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. We'll now be moving on to Appointments Review Committee recommendations.
Yeah, so Sanjana brings a fresh perspective to TGIF and with it, a wealth of experience. Her previous advocacy work through the Green Policy Initiative, Community College Student Government, SSCCC, and now serving as an external affairs staff member at the Office of the Transfer Student Representative all lead us to believe that she is well suited for this role, and we are excited to see what she accomplishes on the Green Initiative Fund. Her long-term goals to impact UCLA beyond her own time as a student on campus is admirable, and with a 4-0 vote, ARC strongly recommends Sanjana for this appointment.
Thank you so much. We'll now be moving on to council deliberations. Joy?
Hi, Sanjana. Thank you so much for coming to council today. I just wanted to say, as one of the few transfers in a funding body like TGIF, Sanjana provides an important and fresh perspective on how to uphold environmental justice and support marginalized communities. Your application really stood out to me, and I was impressed with your interview as well, and your emphasis that sustainability and environmental justice are inseparable. Sanjana has a good sense of purpose for the committee, especially as it relates to environmental justice, and with experience with the Green Policy Initiative and budget management, I'm excited to see her role in TGIF and her support for groups that further environmental justice. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you so much. Here, Ms. Adahan.
Yes. Hi again. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sanjana. I haven't had the chance to work directly one-on-one with Sanjana, but she is a part of my office, and I am so grateful for it. External relations is one of our most competitive committees to get on, so I just from seeing her qualifications and seeing what she brings to the table, I was already so impressed. But on top of that, like her genuine love for sustainability and for working on a fund like TGIF is just it's evident, and I could see it in her ARC interview. I could see it in the way that she carries herself through student government, and I'm honestly so excited for what your USAC career has in store for you. And I strongly urge everyone here to vote yes.
Thank you, Harem. That was so sweet.
Thank you. Are there any other council members for deliberations? Seeing as there are none, can we please move on to a vote? Yes, Joy.
I move to appoint Sanjana Sudhir for a one-year appointment for the Green Initiative Fund for the 2025 to 2026 school year.
I second.
Second.
Joy motions, Jaya seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With the votes of 12 to 0, that motion passes, and Sanjana is approved to serve on the Green Initiative Fund for the academic year 2025-2026. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate it. Have a great night.
Thank you. We will now be moving on to officer reports. I'll keep mine brief. These past 2 weeks, I've met with stakeholders, student projects, and administrators regarding the Campus Retention Committee and the Student Initiated Outreach Committee. And tomorrow, on Wednesday, September 3rd, I will be attending the North Neighborhood Westwood Council meeting at 7 p.m., I believe. Tommy?
Hi everyone, IVP has had a busy week. We interviewed approximately 60 applicants for our director positions. We should have final decisions out by the end of this week. And then I will also be sitting at the neighborhood council meeting tomorrow. So yay! And yeah.
Sherry?
Hi, I'll keep mine pretty short. And one thing that I want to highlight is that the UC Regents are having their bi-monthly meeting in 2 weeks, and so our office is focusing a lot on that. We're planning to give a council-wide presentation about Regents advocacy in the next USAC meeting, so look forward to that. And if your office is planning on doing any sort of mobilization to the Regents or regarding the Regents, would love to work on that. Please reach out.
Thank you. Talia? Talia's written report. Jaya?
Yes, hi. I'll try to keep mine like limited 30 seconds. Gen Rep 2 has been very busy. We have like probably like at least five events coming up this quarter, including collaboration with Basic Needs Fest with CSC, Gen Rep 3's SWC, and CAC. Also have our upcoming event with ASU and TSR, Black Transfer Welcome event, and then doing a lot of advocacy work. Meeting with Steve. We met with Steve Lurie with Diego. Also did a meeting with Seppi with Diego. Been working on a lot of like legislation mobilization and possible proposals and things like that. and continue planning for our mother organization town hall. We have over 5 mother organizations who will be attending, and I'll be supporting them and meeting with them shortly to figure out the agenda for that. Also planning financial literacy night in collaboration with FSC, working on a transparency post as well. Also been doing further promotion for appointment search committee, um, adding the flyer onto newsletter, also figuring out how to promote it in residential life now that RA is back and things like that. So yeah.
Thank you, Brett.
Hi everyone. Not much on my end. Just been planning the Basic Needs Fest with Jaya and a couple of other people in USAC and some other basic needs orgs. Also want to mention that we're finally done hiring for the summer. And that's kind of it.
Thank you. Chris?
Good evening, everyone. My officer report will be written today. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Hi everyone. My office and along with CAC has been still working on playing Bruin Bash and EAF. Super exciting. Working on finalizing our lineup and just basic logistics for the concert. But yeah, we're super excited. And then my office in general has just been working on general programming for fall quarter. Yeah.
Thank you. Edison?
Yeah, hi. So just an update from CSC. We are planning Volunteer Day. The date of it has been confirmed. It's going to be on week 0 on Saturday, so September 27th. My office will probably reach out closer to the school term with more like publicity and outreach materials. But
Thank you. Divine?
Hi everyone. Tech has been very busy. We've been continuing to play in Bruin Bash and the AF alongside CEC, and then also playing the Basic Needs Fest with a few USAC orgs and Basic Needs orgs. Additionally, last week we tabled at the AAP Freshman and Transfer Summer Program, which was amazing. Got to speak to a lot of the freshmen and transfers about CAC, and it was just a really great time. Also started really figuring out what we're going to be doing in terms of programming for fall quarter. Really exciting stuff. Reached out to start booking. And it's good news. Last time I talked about some positions that still needed filled. We now have an ARC funding chair. We now have a DCT director. The only position that's still open is Word on Wednesday. So if you know anyone interested in that, please let me know. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Nico. Oh, sorry about that, Joy.
The STC public comment period for the draft environmental impact report closed as of August 30th, and FACTS T committee mobilized students to make public comments through August in support of alternatives 4, 5, and 6. And then for appointments and committees, we are still looking for 5 appointments for the John Wooden Center Board of Governors. So please apply with the appointments on the appointments website. And then TGIF and the Campus Sustainability Committee have been filled. TGIF now consists of Jesse Martinez, Michael Griffin, Dante Ray, Avantika Mohan, and Sanjana Sudhir. And then for the Campus Sustainability Committee, I have approved Ariella and Betty Chang via consent. And then we are conducting internal appointments for CBAC and TSAB. And then FAC has finished hiring all of its project directors. And the rest of my report is written.
Can you, Lorelai or Jonathan, can you confirm if that consent has to come through council, or is it okay if Joy does it on her own?
Yeah, it should be an agenda item as well that's just approved via consent. So I would put it on the next agenda.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Joy. Yeah, we'll put it on the next agenda. Yeah, feel free to let Tommy know. Okay, thank you. Nico?
Hi everyone. Today we are going to be discussing the USA/BOD funding body bylaw changes, and with that, just restructuring the budget review committee to hopefully have a better process this year, and then also recently closed FSC apps, so we'll be working on hiring people for the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah.
The SWC office has just been working on a lot of planning for fall quarter events, a potential collaboration with TSR on a UC ship workshop, as well as the basic needs events that a lot of other offices have mentioned already. We also met with the Santa Monica Rape Treatment Center to discuss upcoming collaborations and outreach efforts, and are planning our Health Coming Festival, hopefully week 3 of fall quarter. So excited for that.
Thank you, Hiram.
Sorry to be such a party pooper. Everyone's like, "Oh, I'm done hiring." I was done hiring. I opened my apps again. I decided 70 people was not enough. So, if you know any transfers in your life that would be interested in working as either a director or staff member in my office, send them my way. Very excited. Those apps close September 20th. I'm bringing back the Administrative Affairs Committee. And also, you guys saw my transfer awareness presentation. I'm doing that with my Administrative Affairs Committee as well as my California Community College Connections Committee. That's a mouthful. So if you guys are interested, here's the link again. I strongly urge you guys to sign up. All 15 USAC offices have previously done this before. I think there's something of use with this presentation just to bring more awareness to transfer student issues. And I think that's all I wanted to highlight. The rest of my report will be written.
Thank you, Kea.
Yeah, so the ISR office has been kind of building up on all the initiatives that we put in place and just um setting up menus and things like that for the events that we promise. Apart from that, we are still hiring and um working on doing the academic senate appointments. So everyone's encouraged to apply, and some of our director positions are still open. So um also encouraged to apply for that. And the rest of my report is written.
Thank you. Lorelai.
Hello, everyone. I have a few different things to review with you all. You all should have received an email around 6:30 today regarding a transition feedback form. If you could all fill that out, that'd be lovely. It's just a way for us to assess how your transition went, anywhere we can improve as advisors to help with the process for future USAC councils. I have a date set for September 16th for that to be completed. A few of you have already done it. Thank you so much. But yeah, I'll remind you all next council meeting when that comes back around. Beyond that, an email was sent out if you haven't completed your module set 3, which is just the SGA rec form kind of training module within the EdApp. So that's accessible through EdApp, which you all have access to after having completed module set 1 and 2 with your welcome guide that Jonathan shared when you initially were being onboarded as council members. So it's a pretty quick it's lengthy, but it's quick. And it's pretty much review if you build out a rec, just making sure that you're aware of all the basics and are able to help your, office obtain funds and use those funds. So please complete that as soon as possible. It was due on the 4th, but we did forget to send out a reminder email. So just complete it as soon as possible, as SGA is going to have your budgets, coming around soon, and we want you to be able to engage in those conversations with SGA, having that base knowledge before doing so. Beyond that, if you could move forward with any e-board appointments that come your way, so that way you have that in the fall, keep that in mind. USAC after hours cards are still in my office. So if you are in the area and you haven't picked yours up, feel free to come by the office between 9 and 5. And if not, just I'll have them available also when you all return for fall. And then for rosters and volunteer agreements, make sure to complete those as you are onboarding and hiring staff. If you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me or Jonathan. want to shout out again that our webmaster has put together drafts of web pages for each of you. So if there's anything that you want on web pages on the USAC website for your office, be sure to coordinate with Anakit so that way he can put that information for you up. An email was sent out previously, but if you need help reconnecting with him, please let me know. And then lastly, Jonathan, Lori, and Jessica are putting together an admin mixer, which is something that we do annually for officers to meet with admin on campus or, other, staff members that deal with resources that you all regularly engage with or partner with. If you have any suggestions of people that you want to be there so you can, make that connection, maybe talk about an initiative, please DM me or Jonathan, and we'll be sure to see if they're able to come, invite them, provide them the information. So that's it for me.
Thank you so much. Lori?
Hi guys. I'm just brewing bashing it up and working on Transfer Palooza. That's what I'm doing right now. So hopefully you guys got some transfer applications from my leadership academy that I went to, met some really great students and sent them your way. So hopefully that worked.
No, thank you, Lori. I got in touch with Casey and she shared with me that a lot of other students did apply to the From Leadership Academy. So again, thank you so much for promoting it. Jonathan?
Hey, hi, hello, all. Happy Tuesday. Couple things from me this week. First, fall parking permit form will go out, have its schedule sent to go out tomorrow morning. So if you're not familiar with that process, basically, we have a set of staff departmental permits that we offer to you all, which are a cheaper, I believe, and better than the regular like student ones that you can get. You do still have to purchase it yourself, and you may not use USAC monies to purchase it. You need to use your own personal dollars. Um, but if you're interested in one of those permits, they're all for lot 4, and that form will go out tomorrow. And as of now, it will only be open to elected officers from both USA and GSA until the end of day Sunday. And then if there's additional permits available, I'll let you know that you could share that out with any of your staff members. If you have a funding body, please make sure your chairs are coordinating with Lorelei to work on your guidelines. Just a friendly reminder that you may not open any applications for funding until your guidelines have been approved by council and Lorelei. So keep that in mind as the year quickly approaches. Jessica is out all of this week on vacation. So if you need anything from her, please see Lorelei or myself in the meantime, or we appreciate your patience for when she comes back. You should be receiving your budget forms from SGA shortly, I believe, this week. If you are an office that needs to open up different accounts. But also the requisition forms will be opening this week. So those will get uploaded to your website here shortly. They are done. There has been some changes to the rec process this year that I am very excited about and I think will be really great. And we will do a full presentation on that and how that will work at your next meeting. Which is just your reminder that your last summer meeting is your next meeting, which is the 16th. You will not meet week 0, and then you will return to in-person regular year meetings week 1. And reminder that your summer quorum will end at that point as well. So one more summer meeting virtually, and then we'll be happy to see you back on campus. I know I am a little behind on my emails currently with the Labor Day holiday, and then I've been working on the rec forms the past many days. So I'm planning to get caught up tomorrow. If I have anything outstanding from you, you will hear from me shortly. Have a great week.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Peter, any updates?
Nothing for me this week, guys.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to our old business. We have several bylaw changes from Nico. Oh yes, Tommy.
Yeah, so regarding the bylaw changes, CRC was unable to meet. We remembered the fact that like to invite Jonathan, but we kind of went over the fact that like we needed to have like a public meeting. So, if I'm correct, I believe according to our bylaws, if these need to get approved today, we just have to motion to bypass CRC approval. If not, CRC will have met and reviewed them by the next meeting. Thank you.
So we're voting to override them? Wait.
Well, if people want to override them, they can. I think it's up to, I guess, the people that introduced the bylaw changes.
Yeah, Nico, feel free to share.
Um, yes, so since these bylaw changes are to create basically a new appointment, since we're changing the name of the current appointment, it's technically creating a new appointment, which means all the previous applications to this appointment are void and people have to reapply. I like kind of need these bylaws to be approved today for that reason, so we can hopefully by next USAC meeting have an appointment on the agenda for this, like have someone appointed to the position. So then we can get started on passing the guidelines and getting this funding body up and running because this funding body starts accepting applications the very first day of school. And to have that, like the timeline is very pressed already, so we can't really delay these bylaws for 2 weeks. I would prefer to get them done today.
Got it. Tommy?
Yeah, so just before each one, I think we just need a separate motion to bypass CRC, and then you would just motion to approve it after that, if I'm correct, but Jonathan might have more info.
Hi, yes, you're welcome to suspend the portion of your bylaws that requires you to have CRC review today. But what I wanted to comment on is that I'm putting in the chat some language if you all would like to vote on them as one, as opposed to vote on them individually. That is how you would do it per Robert's rules, but up to you.
Okay, so Diego, I think you would just invite discussion on any of the bylaws if need be, then.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I think if no one else has any questions about like the process, I think you would just invite any discussion about the bylaws, the changes, and then if not, I think we can motion for a vote.
Okay, yeah, Nico, if you'd like to carry this discussion, seeing as it's your bylaw changes.
Of course. I think I covered all of them last meeting. So, I guess Diego, question for you. Would you prefer for me to go over them again or just kind of I can do a brief overview, I could go in depth on each one. Like, what do we think?
I think a brief overview if you'd like.
Okay, yeah. All right. So starting with the first one is just changing the name of Budget Review Director to USA/BOD Funding Chair. The second one is doing the same thing, but for the assistant budget review director. So now it's assistant USA/BOD funding chair instead of assistant budget review director. The third one is removing the budget review director from the financial responsibility oversight board since the budget review director does not actually review budgets. It's just an outdated name. I think that was the third one I said. So now the fourth one is removing the budget review director from the funding committee that FICOM is a part of, because as I just said, the budget review director does not actually oversee budgets. They oversee a funding body, so it is a misleading name. That was the fifth one. Okay, now the sixth one is removing the fact that says the budget review director shall present the budget allocations to council, because obviously the budget review director did not present budget allocations to us as an outdated bylaw. And I think that was the last one, but let me just check really quick. That was the last one. So that's the bylaw changes.
Thank you. And would you like to motion for the votes using Jonathan's
Yeah.
language?
So I first motion that bylaw changes A through G under old business be voted in block.
Is there a second to that?
I second that motion.
Nico motions, Chris seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote to 14 to 0, that motion is approved and bylaw changes A through G under old business are approved. Is that the right language? Yes, Nico.
Now we have to actually approve them. That was just to vote on them in
Okay.
block.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I also motioned to approve Tommy's as well in that A
That's
through G.
fine. It's nothing big.
Okay, well, I guess everyone already voted on it, so I'll motion for the next one. I motion to approve the bylaw changes A through G under old business.
Tommy?
Oh, I second.
Nico motions, Tommy seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. Talia, is that an approval vote or against vote?
No, sorry.
All abstaining. With a vote to 14 to 0, those bylaw changes A through G are approved to, I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's language. They are approved to pass. They are passed and are approved. Sorry about that. So tell me we don't go over your bylaw change.
No, I went over it last meeting. Nothing has changed, so it's all good.
Okay, sounds good. All right, then we will now be moving on to our new business, which is a letter in solidarity with student services and advising professionals demand new collective bargaining agreement from JA.
Hi all. Yeah, so this is something I've been meeting with the UAW and professional staff from STAPS throughout the summer and also during the end of spring quarter to kind of discuss what's been going on, not in just regards to VIPs, but also GPS and the changing restructuring and also change in administration Dr. Jomly Tunstall is now in charge of AAP, and this is discussing kind of what's been going on, but hasn't been necessarily as publicized as like other things that admin has been focusing on in regards to SAPs and how they've been struggling in terms of also being overworked. Also there have been like layoffs. SAPs have also been leaving because they're looking for new jobs that have better like wages, benefits, and also better treatment and more transparency. And in addition to that, when I was meeting with SAP, something they have decided to go on is around I believe it is, let me check. It is this week that SAPs will be going as a group, and they will be wearing Unity colors as well to Murphy Hall to hand deliver a letter to Dean Galvan with the demands that include one, job security, two, wages, benefits, and compensation, and three, safe and flexible workplace protections. And they're demanding progress in all three of these areas because Dean Galvan has not been responding. He's either not been responding them, providing lack of transparency in regards to trickle down of like giving them actual answers on what's with their budget and how this has trickled down to also the changing effects of AAP and how that's led to the such overwork of our professional staff. So that is something that I worked with them, and we wanted to kind of bring students kind of also involved in the advocacy just for them to also get clarity on what has been going on with SAPs, not just in AAP, but also like in other services such as summer sessions and things like that. And I think something they stressed to me when they read a letter is they really want this to be a solidarity letter because they also want this to kind of encourage SAPs to also have to also be inspired on their own will to want to stand up for themselves and also stand with the job of USAC is to stand in solidarity and be mindful of the positionality, but also for students to understand how this affects them, right? Because maybe it's not a direct impact, but SAPS oversees basically all the students and primarily the ones that we know that are being affected is heavily AAP, which oversees our most marginalized students. And no, maybe it's not necessarily like a DEI cut, but it is a budget cut that overwhelmingly is affecting AAP, which is a DEI program. The main demands from SAPS is for Dean Galvan to pass this letter on to President Milliken and for him to be involved in their collective bargaining agreement as well. Something else I would like to flag is a Higher Education Employer Employee Act granted rights to UC employees to form and join employee organizations and partake in these collective bargaining with employees. And an additional aspect of this is in those collective bargaining agreements, students of UC Student Association fought for there to be official student body representation in elective collective bargaining sessions. I met with the policy director UCSA and they are allowing me to participate in some upcoming collective bargaining sessions. So I also want to flag that as well, that in this demand of a SAP's demand for a new collective bargaining agreement, there will be some form of student representation that is required by HERA Act. And in addition, something we want to stress at the end is how UCLA Division of Undergraduate Education prides itself in its family member to be campus-wide advocate, but they cannot fulfill this position with Dean Galvan hiding and not being transparent and advocating to further protect the budget of SAPs and also protect the protection rights of our SAPs workers. So that's kind of an overview basis. I'll let you guys read it because you guys can read. I wrote this and then I had the UAW rep and SAPS folk look over it and edit it to make sure um, it is also very clear to their letter that will be going out to Dean Calvin. That letter has not been publicized yet, but I'm sure it will once it comes out this week.
Thank you, Jay. Are there any comments or questions from council?
That's all I have to say.
Final call for questions or comments. Seeing as there are none, we can move on for a motion if someone would like to motion.
I motion to approve a letter in solidarity with student services and advising professionals' demand for new collective bargaining agreements.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Was that Sherry?
Yes.
Tommy motions, Sherry seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With the votes of 14 to 0, this letter in solidarity with student services and advising professionals' demand for new collective bargaining agreement is approved. Tommy, do you have any comments?
Yes. So before we end this meeting, everyone, I'm sure you noticed we've had very little appointments this week. And that is because no one is forwarding them to ARC. And I see them all sitting there. So this is just a friendly reminder that next meeting is our last meeting, I believe, on Zoom for the summer. So we kind of have the choice to make of would you rather be sitting through 20 plus appointments on Zoom or in person? So my preference is Zoom, but you know, that all requires on if you guys move them forward to ARC. So please do so. Thank you.
Here.
I don't know if this is just on my end, but all the appointments in the workflow system, they lack a like what
Name?
the student applied to. Like it doesn't list that
Yeah,
on
it
my
doesn't say the appointment name.
On some of them, and I think it's when the student does not fill it out. So usually when that happens, I'll fish it out of like their response answers and see who they are. Some of them don't write contact info either, so then I'll have to go onto their resume. But I think it's just some of them forgetting to actually fill out the box.
Or what you could do also on the workflow is you can see, I think you have, it's like a button. I'm not sure which one it is, but there's an option to let you like view the entire map of the workflow. So like it says like candidate applied, candidate is waiting for approval, candidate is moved forward to council. Like it's a line of like what the person goes through, and then there it'll say what their appointment is. If that makes any sense. Sorry if that sounds confusing. But like there should be an option. You just have to kind of like go and check what each appointment is, which kind of sucks. But yeah, sorry if that's confusing. That's what I've been doing on my end. Okay, then I will now be adjourning today's meeting if nobody else has any comments. I now adjourn today's meeting on September 2nd at 8:51 p.m. Thank you so much, everyone.